All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 148 of the Fantasy Timeline, a proud member of the Dynasty Addicts Podcast Network. I'm Josh at Real Fantasy TL. I am with the co-host with the most, Drew at DR underscore PRA. Drew, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I got to do a little last minute trip to New York here. So I'm coming live from the city on the 26th floor. And Bills are 2-0 in convincing fashion. So pretty good week.
So are you in New York City currently because you were in Orchard Park a couple days ago, getting drunk
God,
and revelrous?
I wish I had a bruised shoulder from a table, but it's not true. So got an opportunity to come up here for a couple days. We'll catch a Yankees game tomorrow night that I'm excited about. But yeah, just made this quick trip for a couple days, and no place like New York. So every chance I get, I'll be here. So we'll be a little bit shorter tonight. So tune in next week if you want the extended version.
So you're going to a Yankees game tomorrow. So it's actually I want to throw this in there real quick, and I promise this will actually be real quick. You might catch Aaron Judge's 61st home run ball.
Might.
As friend of the show, Bobby Koch, had talked about on the Twitter machine today, if you catch that ball, don't give it back. Make them give you a Godfather offer if they ever want to see that ball again, because that thing is going to go for probably a cool $500,000 on the auction market there if it gets there. So
Yeah, I'm gonna need a couple of Bitcoin, a la Tom Brady.
Listen, you're already ahead of the game, man. You are already ahead of the game. So we don't do this every week, but I saw this one and I want to run it by you, Drew. Stat of the week. And this is from Bridget Condon at Bridget Condon _ on Twitter. Trevor Lawrence is 0-9 on the road. That's not good, Bob. He's going to try to get his first road win Sunday against the Chargers. Who is the only quarterback to lose his first 9 road starts and win his 10th?
Oh man!
Now remember, this is NFL history.
Is he currently active?
He is not an active quarterback.
Okay. This feels like a who was disappointing early and turned around to end up in the Hall of Fame kind of question.
That is a good way to think about
it. Man, wasn't Peyton Manning, was it?
First guess got it. Peyton Manning. You grabbed it right off the top, man. The last one I told you.
You got me last week.
I got you. This one, not so much, but crazy stat. Obviously,
yeah,
you kind of nailed it on the head. Hall of Famer, not currently, but will be Peyton Manning, and there it is. So, Drew, let's do this, man. Let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right. Drew, why don't you start us off this week?
So for the good, you had to know I was going to go here. Tua. Against another one of those started off really poorly and then ended up being at the end. 6 touchdowns, had to dig himself out a little bit of a hole where they were down 21 going into the fourth, and record-setting week for the receivers. 2 of the top 3 receivers, both on the same team for Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Looked like it was going to be an all Waddle day, and then all of a sudden, you forget about Tyreek in the background, and boom, 2 plays, 2 touchdowns. Really, I think showed some grit there. Really, really cool to see Mike McDaniel pull that together, coaching as well. So, a lot of fun along with that. Just a great game in general, which was a lot of fun to watch. But good to see Tua stay composed, make the right plays, make some decent throws. Um, you get 50 chances with guys like Tyreek and um, Waddle on the team. You're going to hit some big plays. So that volume, I don't think, is anywhere close to what we'll normally see from Tua on a week to week basis. But took advantage of it. Picked his spots. And got a couple of the guys in the mix as well. Gesicki looked like he was competent and possibly startable again. So I don't know if that's going to fool anybody into doing it next week. But yeah, great comeback effort from Tua and the Dolphins.
I love that one. That I kind of got switched over to that game after whatever game was on in my area. I don't even remember, and it was I don't have words for it. It was amazing. My good. Last week I said, this is supposed to be kind of a fantasy relevant thing, and I had three things that really didn't focus in on fantasy too much. I'm gonna make it four in a row. My good is the crazy endings of week 2. We talked about the Miami down 3 touchdowns going into the fourth, pull out the win. The Browns up 30-17 with 82 seconds left and lose. Did you see that sequence of events in that Jets game?
I did.
It's insane. It is insane. What happened to them there? Cooper Rush leads the Cowboys down the field to set up a game-winning field goal. You have Arizona making Hunter Renfrow fumble twice in a row. The second fumble picked up and returned for the touchdown in overtime to win it for the Cardinals. And then there were other 3-point wins. The Patriots win by 3 against the Steelers. The Giants win by 3 against the Panthers. So a lot of exciting games, a lot of nail biters, a lot of crazy finishes, like I said. So that's my good, man. It's just the crazy finishes.
Absolutely. And what's you said it's not really fantasy relevant, but what's good for the NFL is good for fantasy, right? So viewership matters, people getting excited about it. And then another fun stat, I don't know if you saw this on the timeline last week. Browns were the last team to lose this type of lead in the last 2 minutes since the Browns in like 2005. So it's kind of their thing. So in which you talk about the timeline. I'm sure you saw the totally tasteless picture somebody put up of some fans tailgating with a mannequin in the parking lot before the game, referring to Deshaun Watson and their view of his process here. And come on, people. It felt fitting that it would end that way for them this week.
Yeah, I am maybe unfortunately or maybe fortunately I didn't see that.
Fortunately,
but
completely tasteless.
People, come on, be better. Just freaking be better. All right, Drew, hit us with the bad from week 2. What was bad about week 2?
This hurts a little bit because we have this guy on one of our teams, thinking that he'd be kind of a safety net, good bye week fill in, maybe a tradable guy if he did better than maybe people expected. And that's Matt Ryan and the Colts getting shut out by the Jags this week. Which kudos to you. You were the driving force behind that bet last week that we suggested for the Jags to win it. I'll be honest, I was very much on the fence at best on that one, and that was embarrassing for the Colts. And they contain JT, 9 carries for 56 yards. Matt Ryan, no touchdowns, 3 picks, just looked outmatched.
Do you realize that the Colts have not won in Jacksonville since Andrew Luck was quarterback? Think about that for a minute. Think about, literally, they have a new quarterback every year. So think about the list of quarterbacks that have played for the Colts that have not won in Jacksonville. And honestly, I believe the spread was 4, if I remember correctly. And I even said I wouldn't bet the money line, but take the points. I should have told everybody to bet the money line, man. I mean, what the hell? That was crazy. But I love, yeah, that was bad. Very, very bad. Um, my bad. Dalvin Cook, 12 touches, 36 total yards, 0 touchdowns. And I know a lot of people, I saw the timeline, hey, I need Dalvin to get me 8 points. I need Dalvin to get me 9 points. I need 7.5 points from Dalvin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it did not work out for you at all. Listen, Philadelphia Eagles did almost lose to the Detroit Lions, but we saw the Detroit Lions play in week 2. They look like they're a team that is figuring out how to win
They
games.
believe. They believe.
And so, years past, almost beating Detroit it would be an insult. This year, I don't think that's the case, And then obviously, they bushwhack the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, that was watching a college team play a high school team. It was a bloodbath out there. Just Kirk Cousins throwing for his life, throwing interceptions here, there, everywhere. Justin Jefferson couldn't really get it going. Dalvin Cook definitely couldn't get going. I mean, I heard Johnny Munt's name way more time than I ever thought I would hear in my entire life. And that kind of, if that's the guy that gets going, it's probably not going to be a good day for your offense. So Dalvin Cook, he was bad, bad, bad. Before we go to your ugly, though, here you go. From Jesse, our man Jesse. Dalvin, I'm assuming that's Dalvin and not supposed to be Darvin. Trade for Target. Think so. Cousin in prime time sucks. Yeah. Did you see the thing on Twitter today? Somebody put Kirk Cousins into a Cialis poster, and the top of it says, have trouble performing, and it's Kirk Cousins. And look, I mean, it was a great Photoshop, but I mean, for real, I mean, he's got trouble
When it counts.
when the lights are on bright. So, but what do you think about this? Is this the time you maybe slide in and go, Dalvin Cook don't look so good. I'll take him off your hands, and
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking dynasty, sure. Is he washed? Is it ready to? Is it time to give up? Is it a team that maybe doesn't need him there, accumulating whatever points he is going to accumulate this year? Perhaps you get him on a bit of a discount, get somebody to just get out now for redraft. Sure, I mean, yeah, if you can get him for redraft, and this will be the worst game, assuming he's healthy. Dalvin's really the reason that JT wasn't my bad for the week. Because he was one step lower when you think about the expectations of what should be happening for these guys and how they should be contributing. So, yeah, I'm totally fine if you want to send a couple of feelers out and see if somebody's panicking or if somebody's ready to again get these mediocre points off their bench now or their lineup now if you're in dynasty. And yeah, maybe he helps. Hopefully he rebounds and you have a great option for later on in the season.
So. Dynasty, no, unless you can get him for a song, because he's the kind of guy that if you trade for him, you almost have to believe he's going to die on your team. He's going to stay on your roster forever because he's just getting older. Another injury happens, there's more value. Redraft, yeah, snag him now. I think he'll be fine. And look at this schedule upcoming for the Minnesota Vikings. The next 6. Lions, Saints, Bears, Dolphins, Cardinals, Commanders. Besides the Saints, is there a team that you're like, Dalvin's not going to be able to eat against? I don't think so. Besides the Saints, I don't think there's a team that
Saints will be tough.
Saints will be tough, and I think that's it.
And don't overlook the Lions, right? I mean, we just talked about them.
But the Lions are giving up points. They can win. I'm not saying that Minnesota beats the Lions, but Minnesota is going to give up Detroit's going to give up points in the process. I mean,
Fair.
we saw them, what was that, 38-35 against the Eagles. They were up 22-0 at halftime and let the Commanders score, what was that, 29 in the second half? 27, 29, something like that. So I think Dalvin's going to be able to get his in a lot of these games. You know, obviously someone's going to come up and, you know, stop him that we're not expecting. But yeah, there's not a team besides the Saints that I'm really worried can stop them. So, all right, Drew, hit us with your ugly.
Man, it's. I did not think I'd be putting this on the sheet. Really, anytime this season, but especially this early. Bengals and 0-2, a couple of really ugly games back to back, and especially this revamped O-line. You know, assuming that they were going to protect Burrow a little bit better. Yeah, they skipped on Sewell last year, and it looks like Chase was absolutely the right pick in the first for them. So they made some free agency moves to reinforce their line some this year, and thought Mixon was going to have a hot start. We thought they would have more time for Burrow, and he's already been sacked 13 times, and this is ridiculous. And it's too early to project, what the full season will be. But for those of you who are doing the math at home, 6.5 sacks per game times 17. That's a lot of sacks. That is somewhere in the 105 sacks this year range, which there's no way that's he won't be on the field to get past 50 sacks at this rate.
Honestly, let's just call it 1 billion sacks if you want to.
Yeah, might as well.
I will say, in the Bengals defense, Andrew Hall, Dat Network brother, big time Bengals fan. They probably went up against two of the top 5 to 7 defenses this year. I think by the time, barring injuries along those defenses, I think when we call this at the end of 2022, we're going to say that the Cowboys and the Steelers are two of the top 5 or two of the top 7 defenses in the league for 2022. So that's rough. But I will say this. I watched that game. Obviously, I'm a Cowboys fan. I was watching that game. I was not expecting much. I was not watching that thing the Cowboys were going to win. But the weirdest thing to me was Lyle Collins, former Dallas Cowboy. Did he not go to practice at all last year? Because he acted like he never saw Micah Parsons before. He was jumping. He was trying to get quick starts and causing false start penalties. Like, I'm watching just Micah Parsons versus Lyle Collins, and I'm like, you would think that these two men had never met each other. Well, that's not true. You would think that that Micah Parsons did, because he made him look foolish all day. He knew all of his weaknesses and exploited every single one of them. And Lyle Collins looked like he'd lost his memory and forgot who Micah Parsons was. And then the worst part is that they're just moving Micah Parsons everywhere. But anytime they moved him to Lyle Collins' side, they never sent a tight end to help. They never sent a running back to help. They were just like, Lyle, you're going to just get embarrassed all game. And sure enough, he got embarrassed all game. Fun fact, Micah Parsons on pace for 34 sacks this season. He has 2 in each of the first 2 games. So he's breaking records this year. First man to 30 sacks.
He could hit 20 pretty easily, don't you think?
Oh man. I mean, in
all seriousness, I mean, the way he's playing,
I think 20 is easy, and I don't even know if 25 is, you would say 25 in years past, and there were, it was TJ Watt, it was Aaron Donald, that was the list. You could not seriously say that about any other player. And it's like, who? And they play the Giants. They play the Giants Monday Night Football. Yeah, they're
Right.
they're 2-0. God bless them.
Yeah.
But they played the 0-2 Tennessee Titans. Thank you, Bills. And they played the 0-2 Carolina Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
Panthers have a decent defense, and Tennessee has a decent defense. That's nothing like what the Cowboys like. That's going to be fun to watch because Saquon Barkley is I think going to be interesting to see what happens. But if they start getting to Daniel Jones, man, that can go downhill real quick. So that's gonna be fun to watch. But my ugly, Justin Fields. And you might say, hey, Josh, is it because he's only thrown 28 passes in 2 games? No, not his fault. That's been the game plan. Not a good one, by the way, but that's been the game plan. That's not his fault. Insulting the fan base after the game. Did you hear this quote from Justin Fields?
I saw a post online in a caption watching a fan, I think, who saw it live or you saw it for the first time, but no, I did not.
He said in the post-game press conference, this hurts worse for us in the locker room than it does for the fans because we're in here putting in work every day. That's what he said. Pretty much quote. I may have switched some words around, but you get the idea. Now, I'm going to say this. You've been a Buffalo Bills fan for how long?
We're talking 35 years, 34 years.
You've seen lost Super Bowls. You've seen missed field goals. You've seen, but now you're also seeing the highs of Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and all that. I've been a Dallas Cowboys fan over 30 years. I've seen the, I've seen the Super Bowl wins, and I've seen the Quincy Carters, and the washed up Drew Bledsoe, and the washed up Vinny Testaverde. We've been committed. And listen, by the way, my wife has family or had family that lived in Chicago. I've been to Chicago. I've been to Bears games. Those fans are passionate. It hurts them when they lose. It hurts them that their team is not where they were in the 80s, where they were a dominant franchise. It hurts. And for him to say it hurts us more because we're in here putting in the work, I mean, people take time out of their lives. They take money out of their pockets to go to see you guys in stadiums, to buy your jerseys, to show support. Dude, I'll tell you right now, that to me, that just rubbed me the wrong way because, I live outside of Philadelphia, and I can say a lot of things about the Philadelphia Eagles, but their fan base is probably the most passionate in the country, and I've lived in a lot of different places in this country. They live, breathe, eat Eagles. Same thing in Chicago. Live, breathe, eat Bears. And for him to say it hurts us more because we're putting in the work, dude, whether you last one more season or you last 11 more seasons or 21 more seasons, guess what? There are fans that have been there before you got there. There are going to be fans there after you leave. It doesn't hurt you more. I promise you that. It does not hurt you more. The live and die fans, they live and die by the game. It hurts. Monday, Mondays are a little bit darker when your team loses on Sunday. It's just a fact, because you're into it. You're a fanatic. That's what fan means, fanatic. So that rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, that wouldn't feel good. If I had Nathan Peterman come out after his 6 picks and say it hurts me more because I threw those and I got tackled. I mean, yeah, maybe physically painful. I don't want to go to work tomorrow and hear about it from my coworkers.
No.
I don't need to see all the memes and the jokes about how many touchdowns he threw
Nope.
to the wrong team.
Nope.
Yeah, that's youth. That's it's a little immaturity. Hopefully somebody gets him to see it's a little tone deaf there, and maybe he'll do something different midweek before the next game. But yeah, that's not a great look.
Nah. So, all right, everybody. That is the good, the bad, and the ugly from week 2. Now you know what we're gonna do, man. Let's do this thing. It's what we do best. It's what we have the most fun with. Let's see what we saw on the timeline. Number 1 from our boy Corey Deaton at Dynasty Eor. What happens to Trey Lance's value after another year of waiting? Recently traded him for Dak and was excited when it got accepted. Well, I'm going to take this first. You should be really freaking excited because you got a guy that we have no idea. Like, we legitimately don't know what Trey Lance is for a guy that, yeah, 2 out of the last 3 years, the massive ankle injury. And then, this hand injury similar to what Russell Wilson had last year. But we've seen this guy, especially for fantasy, be pretty damn good. And we don't know if Trey Lance will ever get there. I mean, we're talking about Dak Prescott, who has multiple top 10 finishes at the quarterback position. Trey Lance, I don't even know if he has multiple top 10 games in his career.
Mm-hmm.
So, and now he's coming off of a massive ankle injury. I mean, maybe you look to Dak and say, hey, like his isn't as bad as Dak's. Like, this should be good news. But, man, we don't know. We don't know that at all. So, I'm glad you got excited. As far as his value, I mean, what's going to happen? Jimmy Garoppolo's in town. What's going to happen if Jimmy Garoppolo takes this team to the playoffs and they win a game? What's Trey Lance's value then? Because then you go, okay, like they keep doing it with Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance is nowhere to be found. And I said this last year. You spent 3 first-round picks to trade up to get a quarterback. And the entire year, you go, Jimmy Garoppolo's better. And the team was saying that every week because he was starting. If they at one time in practice was like, Trey Lance is better. Trey Lance is going to give us a better chance to win. Jimmy Garoppolo would have been right on the bench. I don't care how much money he would have been making. But never, not once during the season last year did the coaching staff say, it's time.
Yeah.
Only when Jimmy G got injured for that game did Trey Lance come in. And as soon as Jimmy G was healthy, Trey Lance was right back on the bench. That's another indictment to me. Because a lot of times, oh, well, we started the guy now. We started the rook. We're going to keep him in. We're going to keep things going. And they said, no. They said, we're not going to do that. We're going back to the guy who we think gives us the best chance to win. And that wasn't Trey Lance. I mean, what's his value going to be next year? I mean, do you honestly think, let's fast forward to February of 2023. Season's over. Drew is just cashing in championships. I'm just sitting here thinking about what could have been. And do you think that you're going to trade the promise of Trey Lance for 23 first?
If it's a 112, I would probably consider it. If it's a championship team.
But think about 2023 hype right now, and we don't even know the players in the game. I mean, we know some of them, but things are going to change. Players that we're not talking about right now are going to move up. Players that we're talking about right now are going to move down. I mean, yes, there will be leagues where the 112 gets, but I think majority, I don't know if you get a first for Trey Lance. I really don't. And I know people are going to call me crazy, and that's fine. Sometimes my thought process works out very well, and sometimes it does not. But if it was me, if you're the 112, I'm assuming you won.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was a trade, whatever. But if you're the 112, you won. Does Trey Lance help you repeat? You don't even know what Trey Lance is. Does Trey Lance in a super flex? I mean, if you won in a super flex league, and I know some people win different ways, but you probably got two at least decent quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
So what? You're trading a first for a bye week fill in because he's young and maybe he'll do something? That's kind of what I'm thinking. But what are you thinking? What is the value going to be, and what do you think about Corey's trade?
Uh, I like it overall. I'm actually disappointed. I got an offer like this before he got injured, um, and at that point it was actually Dak plus a little bit.
True.
I've only got him on two teams, so it's one of those I wanted to keep
True.
things spread out a little bit. So obviously I'm kicking myself now. I remember watching the beginning of the game too, and I'm talking to my friend out loud here that I'm watching with, and what are they doing designing runs up the middle for your quarterback? I don't care how athletic he is; he's not built for that. What are you doing? Yeah, like, great. Jalen Hurts, he's rolling out.
Yeah.
He's rolling out. He's got to beat one guy in the open field. Fine, or he's got the option then if the defender commits and then there's somebody behind him that he can dump off to, right? So what are you doing really running your quarterback that you paid 3 first-round picks for and putting him in the middle of a car crash 5, 6, 7 times in a game? So that first of all was just that felt very irresponsible to me.
Agreed.
This trade, I like it a lot. Dak is a guy that he will always have some of that value attached to him because we've seen him do it like you're talking about. Trey Lance, his insulation is going to wear out. I totally agree. I think earlier before this season, when he was named the starter, I think he spiked a little bit and people were getting a couple of firsts for him pretty easily. They were getting, maybe a Kirk Cousins plus something for him, and you were downgrading, on paper in value for him to move him off your team. It's, I think in 6 months, 8 months, again, depending on how he's looking, if he's got a workout tape out there, if his rehab's going well, if there's positive news, if I've got a late round first, I think I at least consider moving it for him, especially, it's not going to be every team that does this, but, I think there will be some teams that probably win with Tom Brady this year. And that for me, would I give up a late first to get a guy that I know should be a starter versus, again, maybe it's more ideal to package your 111, 112 with something else to get into the top half to get one of your top end rookies this year. And hopefully you can do that. But if the fallback is, I'm going to get stuck with whoever's there and maybe the value is not going to be as good. I don't fault anybody for going that route at this point, looking in our crystal ball. But his value is definitely taking a major hit now. This is not the time to trade him away in any situation. Wait for some positive news. We've seen it multiple times over the last few years. I'm thinking even last year with Baker, right? He got, we knew he was going to be out there. They traded for Deshaun, and all of a sudden his value is crap. People are trading him away in Superflex for thirds. And then finally he gets traded, and okay, great. We got a starting quarterback battle here. So now you start to see that value creep up. And then all of a sudden, Labor Day, he's the starter. And oh, wow, week 1 is a revenge game. I think he can do something. And now he's back to, he's not demanding a king's ransom for anything, but he's recouped a good bit of that value to where he's now a solid QB2 for a lot of teams. Maybe you went for an elite quarterback, you've got a Josh Allen, you got a Mahomes, a Herbert, you got a Lamar, and you decide to pair a guy like Baker as your QB2 because you feel like he's got a solid floor. So we've seen plenty of guys regain and recoup some of their value over time, whether it's after getting traded, getting somebody drafted behind them, or getting injured. So I don't think what you will get now is anywhere close to what you hopefully should be able to get in 6 months. So, make room. You've got IR for a reason, hopefully in your league, put them there, stash them, and then wait for some of those offers or send some of those offers out again at the end of the season and see who's got some older quarterbacks, see who's got Matt Ryan this year, see who's got Tom Brady, see who's got, maybe somebody went all in on Marcus Mariota this year and see what happens there, right? Or Jameis or something like that. So look at some of those teams with a more tenuous situation as well, where they took the gamble on their QB2. So I think there will be a market for him. I think you're right, though. It's definitely going to take a severe cut, and hopefully, if you've got him, be patient.
Yeah, I think, and we had this in the chat as well. Jesse said Lance has to be a hold, and I agree. Unless you're getting, unless someone's offering you Dak or something, hold and see what happens. Uh, but talk about Jesse. He's got actually two questions, and normally I don't like putting two questions from the same person on the sheet, but I liked both of them, so I did it. And it's our pod, so we can do whatever we want. Um, so this is from Jesse Shot at Jesse Shot. Rebuild team. Trade Tua for Dak. So it's this Dak Prescott guy showing up again. So if you were rebuilding, are you trading Tua for Dak?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, get the points off your roster now. Get peak value for Tua. If you're rebuilding, Dak is not losing his job anywhere in the near future, and you're going to have a viable QB1 next year. I mean, even for the back half of this year. So, I mean, you're going to have to put up with. I think what you hope is that Dak doesn't come back too early and outscore Tua for the rest of the season, especially if you're in a potential points league or something. So, again, depending on what your projections are, what you expect from these two guys, is there a universe where Dak comes back in week 8, week 9, something like that, and for the last half of the season outpaces Tua and bumps you down a notch or two in your draft order for next year? It's possible, but at the end of the day, if you're asking me if I want Tua or Dak, I'll take Dak right now for sure. And
Yeah.
the follow up here in the chat, straight up, I'd do it straight up. I mean, if you want to try to play the game and squeeze an extra pick out of it or a depth player or something, go for it. If you really think you can capitalize on the huge game, plus maybe somebody's a Bama fan or a Dolphins fan. If you're trading to our friend David Glidden, who's a lifelong Dolphins and Dan Marino fan, maybe you get a little bit extra out of somebody like him. But don't lose. This is the old adage of the dog looking in the pool, sees another dog with another bone in his mouth, tries to get greedy and get that second bone, ends up with no bone. Don't be that dog.
I've heard Mark Cuban say it before, and I don't know if he originated it or not. But he always says, pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. And you don't want to get slaughtered in a trade situation where you can get Tua for Dak. And then you go, I'll try to get a little bit more. And that person's like, nah, that's not going to happen. Yeah. And honestly, do it now because Tua and the Miami Dolphins going up against Drew's Buffalo Bills, we might see a big value shift after that game. We might go from Tua's the best quarterback that ever lived to that bum Tua. I always knew he couldn't play. I
Or
mean,
somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle.
but think about it. The Buffalo Bills have been no joke on defense and on offense too, but on defense. I mean, they held the Rams to 10 points and they held the Titans to 7 points. And just for reference, in case you were asleep last year, the Rams won the Super Bowl and the Tennessee Titans were the number 1 seed in the AFC. So he didn't beat the Texans and the Jaguars. I mean, they beat two talented teams and really made them look foolish. Really made them look bad. So, do I think they're held to 7 points? Probably not. I mean, Miami's too explosive. But I mean, what if they score? What if the final score is 35-21, but Tua throws 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions, and his completion percentage is 55%? It's going to be gross. We're going to be like, maybe we got too high, too fast on Tua. So it could be a big, from 1 week to the other. So yeah, if you're going to try to make that trade, I'd make it now. And then here's a good one. And I've actually been thinking about this question because I have Curtis Samuel on one team that is a rebuild. So I've been pondering this question as well. What is Curtis Samuel worth now? So what is his value? Like,
If I've got him on that rebuilding team, Josh, I think I'm going to go and throw out an offer for a 24 second.
24 second. You're not
I'm
even
gonna.
giving me any of the 23 lovelies.
You can go and see. Maybe you can tack on an extra pick to get that 23 second. I think people are still pretty stingy with those. I think people are going to want to see a little bit more consistency from a Curtis Samuel. I mean, he was dead to the world last year.
Oh yeah. Oh, trust me, I know.
So to
I know.
launch from that to all of a sudden now I'm worth a top 20 or a top 24 pick in this upcoming draft that everybody's excited about. I think that's a bit of a stretch. So you'll have to put something with him. But if you're just talking like asset for asset, I've got him on a couple of teams, and that's probably where I'm going to start. Is yeah, I'll take a 24 second. It doesn't have to hurt you next year. And then when we get to this draft coming up, that's where the next year's draft picks, which will be the 2024s, will hold some weight. They'll help me move up a little bit where I want to move up in some drafts. And if I have to hold them, I have to hold them again. And then, the cycle of the value of those picks in the future. So on that rebuilding team, that's where I'd go get those points off the roster, get those potential points gone. And who knows when the bottom's going to fall out? Who knows when Wentz is going to get hurt at some point and a different quarterback comes in that doesn't use Curtis Samuel the same way. Game script changes, etc. So he's not a guy that I'm really believing in for the long term. So if somebody's willing to trade me something that's going to be decent in the next year or two, I'm taking it.
Yeah, good thing about the Commanders is I think they're going to be down in a lot of their games. So I feel like Carson Wentz is going to have to throw whether they
Mm-hmm.
want him to or not. I'm trying to get those 23s though. Let's think about it. If you're a contender, right? If you're a real top 3 team, what the hell do you give about a second round pick? What do you care about giving up pick 22, 23, 24? I mean, what are the odds of hitting on those? I mean, we say what it's 50% in the first round, and what does it drop to like 30% in the second round?
20% by that rate, yeah.
So do you want to give are you scared to give up a 30% lotto ticket this year to get a guy who I believe I know he leads the Commanders in touchdowns, I think, and he might lead in he's tied with Terry McLaurin in receiving yards. I know that. So, obviously it's a 2-game sample size. Drew, you're
Yep.
absolutely right. Things can change. Things can change in a heartbeat. But my thing is like, boy, and not just but all Curtis Samuel owners everywhere. If you're ready to sell, the time is now
Yep.
because, like you said, the Commanders play the Eagles next week. We just saw what that secondary did against Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen and Irv Smith and Dalvin Cook. Curtis Samuel's not none of those. he just isn't. So we got to keep that in mind. We got to, because the Curtis Samuel train might stop one last time and never start back up again. But we got a bunch of questions in here, so let's throw
Let's
some
do
of
it.
these on here. This is from Zero Destroyer. What up, guys? Can y'all pick one? Zeke, Curtis Samuel, or Christian Kirk? I'm assuming this is like a start sit deal. I can't believe I'm saying this because I wasn't as high as I should have been on this guy. I was like lukewarm on him, but it's Christian Kirk, man. I mean, that dude.
Yep.
Now I made fun of the money, like everybody made fun of the money,
Yes, we did.
but Trevor Lawrence only has eyes for Christian Kirk, and I guess a little bit of Evan Ingram, but it's all Christian Kirk all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
And
that target share is so healthy.
healthy. If there was a word above healthy, I would use that because healthy, I feel like, is almost insulting to the target share. But yeah, like it's got to be Christian Kirk. I mean, he's making the money. He's making the money look reasonable.
He's
At this
earning it.
point.
Yep. He's earning it.
earning every cent, and good for him, by the way.
Yep.
A lot
Earning the
of
targets.
guys.
Yep.
A lot of guys get paid and they go, got paid. I'm done. Like I did everything. broke my back, and now I'm gonna relax on a pile of money. And Christian Kirk's like, want to get me another one of these contracts in a couple of years. So good for him. But yeah, Zero Destroyer. Drew and I are in lockstep here. Christian Kirk, go with it. Our boy, DAP Network brother, friend of the show, Justin at Run DFF. There's no such thing as Tua high on Tua.
He knows.
Well, we're gonna see after that Bills game. What Drew has to see. This is Drew's nightmare. His boo versus his team, and it could be bad for his boo. So
sorry, he's got a buffer on T-Law right now for the season, so he can have a down game this week.
He's got a fucking buffer for sure, man. And T-Law didn't have a bad game. That's the crazy.
He did not.
He didn't have bad, but I mean, he didn't have no Tua game. That's for damn sure. Let's throw this one up here. From Dynasty's Scissor. Enough about Jimmy G. What do you think about Jimmy C, otherwise known as James Cook? What's he worth in Dynasty? All right, Drew, I'm going to let you start this because this is your team and everybody knows my opinion on the man. So the floor is yours.
Oh, man. This is so tough. I honestly have not even paid attention to where. I know he had an early fumble in week 1, and I thought that might put him in the doghouse a little bit. I don't think. Let's see here. What do we have so far? We're looking at 12 attempts, 55 yards right now. So he's averaging 4.5 yards, one single target, which I think we were expecting a little bit more in the passing arena from him this year, which, again, it's early. But, yeah, if you drafted him, you're going to take a pretty steep cut in value, I think. So if it's one of those you don't believe in him and you want to get out while you can still get something, then get something, which that something is probably a third right now. If you can convince somebody of being a piece of the Bills offense, being young, etc. But that's about as good as I think you're going to get from anybody.
Yeah, so all these people that were taking James Cook in the first round, I warn people every year, Drew. Don't we do this every year? And people say, yeah, I'm not going to do that again this year. And then they go ahead and do it. And
I've seen this movie before.
I try to warn people every year. Don't do this. Don't pick this guy in the first. It's always a running back because we need running backs. Everybody needs running backs. Running backs, they get hurt more than any other position. We need as many as possible. And then rookie drafts come and we go, I know this guy wasn't really like my 10th best player on my personal board, but he's a running back. Just move on. Or use that 110 to trade for a running back that you've seen actually produce. I'm with you. I'm actually shocked that we both independently thought of the same valuation, a third. I mean, look, this is kind of looking like the Zach Moss playbook. We got hype about Zach Moss coming out. We were real excited. I don't think we were taking him in the first round of rookie drafts, but we were very excited. He was going to take over. He was going to be the guy, Devin Singletary, his ass. And it was going to be the Zach Moss show. And then it was like, all right, Zach Moss. But in some games, he's not even active. Matt Breida's getting touches over him. Like we've seen the story. And I feel like James Cook is going to be a lot of the same. You know, it's going to be like, he might have a game here, he might have a game there, but you're never really going to be like James Cook. I got to start that guy. Like he's got to be in my lineup. So, yeah, unfortunately, Scissor, I don't know if you're trying to acquire him or if you're trying to get rid of him, but if you're trying to get rid of him at this point, just hold him. Just see if like maybe we're both dead wrong. Maybe injuries happen too, and he kind of gets thrust into a bigger position and then performs. But, you know, if I have to get him off of my roster today, I'm literally like just spamming for thirds. I have him on one team. I actually took him high in the second. And he's just on my taxi squad chilling. He's not going to do nothing this year for me, I don't think. Happens. We'll see what happens. So some great questions. And before we go any further, Let's talk about it, Drew. What are we going to talk about, man? What are we going to talk about? It is the game of the week. So, last week, Drew, we went 3-0 with our picks. So, first of all, pick we made on the show, Jags covering, but covering, they won. They won their game. They shut out the Colts. That's how good that bet was. Then on Saturday, the FTC only pick, which by the way, FTC, the Fantasy Timeline chat, if you want to be a part of it, a lot of great conversation. There was actually a big conversation going on before we went on. We drop a pick in there for their eyes only. So if you want to see that too, there's no cost. Just hit us up at Real Fantasy TL, at DR_PRA, or at Fantasy Timeline and say, hey, I want to be part of that. Georgia minus 25, I think, or 28 against South Carolina. They beat them by like 41. So we covered that one too pretty easy. And then the Sunday morning game, the Detroit Lions -1 against those Washington Commanders. The game actually looked a lot more respectable at the end because at halftime it was 22-0. So I think the Commanders only ended up losing by 9, but it was Detroit -1. So they did their thing. They did what they were supposed to, and we went 3-0. Drew, we went 3-0. So it's a good week. The week before we went 1-1. I knew I was going to see this, and I do want to put it up. Our boy Justin again at Run DFF. Go Dogs! Hey, go Dogs! Listen, Cox they weren't ready, and I knew they weren't going to be ready. You have a defense like that against an offensive line that is a little shaky and a quarterback that likes to be a bit of a gunslinger. It's a recipe for disaster, and that's exactly what happened. So we're going to try to go undefeated again, Drew. We're going to try to do back-to-back weeks, go undefeated. And I don't like doing this. This is something I actually don't like doing. But it's too good to just. I don't want to cost people money. I want to make people money. The Chiefs -7 at the Colts. All right, let me break down some actual stats here. Colts are 0-4 in their last 4 against the spread. Obviously, last week they didn't do it because we told you guys to bet on the Jags. And 0-4 in their last 4 against the spread after losing by 14 or more points. Guess what they did last week? They lost by 14 or more points.
Many more.
And let's face it, the Chiefs win games. They do. They win week 1 by just battering Arizona offensively, and they win in week 2 with a fourth quarter pick 6 that ends up being the game winner. They know how to win. And the Colts look like they don't even know how to play football. So take the 7 points and cash in with a whole lot of money. And remember, guys, if you're going to do this, if you're going to wager on these games, if you're going to listen to our advice and put some of your own hard-earned money on, use BetUS. We're gonna have our personal link in the comments of this episode on YouTube. If you're listening in podcast, we're gonna also have it in the description. Just click on it. BetUS is doing a whole bunch of cool stuff right now. They're doing like 100%, 125% of your money, so they're just giving you free money. They want you to bet, and you can bet on everything. Obviously, we do the football thing here because that's who we are. But listen, baseball, we're getting into the nitty gritty here. Maybe you're a big baseball fan. I'm a Mets fan. Go Mets. We made the playoffs. Let's go. Hopefully, we can take down the NL East as well and keep it moving. Basketball, right around the corner. Let's go. Do it. So all of that and a lot more. I mean, they got MMA, they got, soccer,
golf.
golf and hockey. So head over there, use our link, and not only will it help you, it'll help us as well. Um, let's bring this one. I think this is going to be our last one for the day because I know you're hanging out with the family and doing those important things. So we're going to do this last one from our boy Coast to Coast Dynasty Mercer at C2C Dynasty Merce. Is this, in quotes, down 2022 class going to be better than expected due to wide receivers? London, Wilson, Burks, and Olave have shined already, while Pickens, Moore, and Watson could have second half surges. I'm gonna take this one first. The answer is yes. And here's what we do, by the way. I always talk about don't draft the first round running back that you're just trying to shove in there. Here's another thing we do. Don't ride the roller coaster during the offseason. We do this every year. We hype up a class. This class has got a lot of good this and a lot of good that. And we get excited. Yeah, let's go. And then, like March, we've seen combine, we've seen pro days. We thought this class was really good, but I don't think they're really that good. We did the same thing in 2022. We took a dump on a lot of these guys. And I think some of it also had to do with the fact that we didn't love the quarterbacks. And by the way, the NFL actually told us we were right about not loving these quarterbacks, with Kenny Pickett being the only one taken in the first round. But, I mean, why did we not think that Garrett Wilson was going to be a good player? He was my wide receiver one in the class. And that's only because, by the way, Jameson Williams got hurt, who, wasn't even mentioned in this tweet because obviously he's dealing with the injury. It'll probably be, halfway through the season before we see him. But Treylon Burks was considered kind of the wide receiver one when everything first kind of got started, and then things started happening, moving back and forth. People were higher on Olave and London than I was, but I mean, Drake London is making Kyle Pitts irrelevant. He was gonna be my ugly, and then Justin Fields said what he said. Cool, I can switch that up. But yeah. And by the way, I think Sky Moore, dude, that's gonna be a thing quick. Because guess what?
Yeah, Juju ain't it right now.
Juju ain't it. MVS ain't it. Justin Watson, all right, maybe. Doubtful, but maybe. I think Sky Moore, and I think there was even a quote today from Andy Reid saying that Sky Moore is going to get more touches. He didn't say targets, by the way. I think he said touches.
Okay.
Which will be interesting if we start seeing him on sweeps and stuff like that. Yeah, we got excited about Pickens, and we'll see, if the Matt Canada offense can throw it more than 3 yards downfield. But if they can figure that part of it out, I think Pickens could be a thing. Christian Watson, he's getting some growing pains, but I'm sure he's trying everything he can to hang out with Aaron Rodgers. That first pass, man, in that Minnesota game. And that was a design play too. That's the worst part about it. That was a design play. Aaron Rodgers said, I want to start this kid off with a touchdown. And he would have if he would have just put his hands around the ball. Shame for him. But yeah. I mean, and by the way, we haven't even talked about Breece Hall. I mean, that's going to be a thing before we end this season. Ken Walker is starting to make his way in through Seattle. That could be a thing. Yeah, we could be talking about a lot of these guys and going, why were we so why are we so down on the class? And by the way, there's spots for guys like like Wandell Robinson. Yeah, he's hurt, but dude, that receiving core right now, past Sterling Shepard and Richie James, not a name I thought I'd be saying in 2022.
Nope.
Is what? Is what? The hope of Kadarius Toney and the corpse of Kenny Galladay? And I know Bobby will cut that up and play it for me tomorrow, but it's true. I said to Bobby showed me the fact that Kenny Galladay had, I think, 2 snaps last week. And I said, it almost seems like it's a roulette wheel. And Brian Dable spins it, and whatever wide receiver it lands on, like, just doesn't play. Week 1, it was Kadarius Toney. Week 2 was Kenny Galladay. Who knows? Week 3, it might be Richie James for all we know. But, Wandell Robinson could come back and end up being the boss of that entire squad. So
Yep. You've got the unknown Daniel Bellinger there still, who had a target, had a touchdown. So yeah, there's not a whole lot though. So yeah, I think you're right that we tend to, especially because we're in a lot of super flex communities, we focus so much on the quarterback position. So much of the opinion for the rest of the class rises and falls with that. And it's every year we have some hidden gems and some that should be more obvious than others. So it's just a good reminder for the rest of this year for the college season. Maybe you don't do a full on Devy, but there are some great folks out there that you can follow who do put out some great Devy content, some basic stuff that you can look at, watch, listen to, read, and get you prepared and maybe tune out some of the other noise from some folks that are just solely focused on where the quarterback's going to be, who's going to be the RB1 and after that. So there's definitely some value to be had here, and hopefully some people were able to capitalize on that during their drafts. And then you still have some time. Like you said, Jameson Williams, who knows? Maybe somebody's getting impatient. Maybe you don't have a deep bench. You don't have the appropriate IR or taxi squad settings for a dynasty league. And you've got somebody that really wants points now. Great. What do you need to, what do you need to get him before you feel like you have to drop him, right? So.
And that's the thing, man. I mean, I think you're right about the super flex thing. You and I are in so many super. I am not in a single 1 QB league, so I don't even think of from that point of view. And sometimes when people send me questions on Twitter, I'm like, I don't know how to answer this when draft picks are involved, because I'm like, what do you have, like 7 guys if you're not talking about the quarterbacks? So, but we also kind of, unless they're just elite prospects, we also kind of downplay the wide receivers, because I mean, we say it on the show too. There's a million wide receivers. You can find wide receivers. You can find Richie James. We're just talking about a guy that nobody was talking about, and that's a guy. Sterling Shepard on the same team is starting to make himself a little bit of a comeback here. A guy like Zay Jones is playable in certain situations. So, we also downplay it besides the elite prospects during the draft, because we're like, oh, there's some, you probably look at your team, even if you're rebuilding, and you go, I got like 3 or 4 at least decent wide receivers. So then if the quarterbacks are poor, then you're looking at running backs. And then it was like, well, it's only Breece Hall and that's it. Maybe you like Ken Walker a little bit. But that was it. That was the marquee. It was Breece Hall, maybe in the little print under it, Ken Walker, and the wide receivers. It's like Gladys Knight and the Pips. It was just like, it was the afterthought. It was the background dancers. But I mean, Garrett Wilson, dude, that dude is looking crazy out there right now. Like, I use the 102 in some spots to get Garrett Wilson. That's how high I was on him.
Yep.
And y'all let us get Garrett Wilson at like 107 in the OG league. I don't know why y'all did that. Maybe y'all thought because we had Elijah Moore, we weren't going to go there, but we went there. Like, y'all let us do it. I don't know why. I would have stopped me if I was me, but y'all let us do it. So God bless y'all. But that, like, and Merce came up with so many, good players. Drake London, dude. I might have to take a massive L on Drake London. It's only 2 games. Things can change quickly. But right now, I got to take the massive L on Drake London. I guess I can continue my week 1 ugly and now throw Drake London in there as well. Treylon Burks, I think, is going to be massive by the time the season's over. They're like just ramping him up because, I mean, do you want to rely on Nick Westbrook Akine?
Yeah. Robert
Nah.
Woods is not
Robert
what he
Woods.
was 2-3 years ago.
Nah, man. And I had high hopes for Robert Woods. I've loved Robert Woods for
I
a
love
long
that
time.
guy.
But
originally Buffalo Bill.
It ain't doing anymore. I think the ACL really sapped him. So, yeah, it is going to be better than expected because we're going to look at all these wide receivers coming out. And, we can even go deep. Like, hello, Isaiah Likely. How you doing? Like, it wasn't just like, oh, all these first-round guys and a bunch of nothing. Wandale Robinson was a guy taken in a lot of second rounds, which I think, could end up being great for people. We haven't seen David Bell yet because I honestly, Jacoby Brissett can only literally target one wide receiver per game. Week 1 it was DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones. This week it was Amari Cooper with the resurgence. I mean, maybe week 3 it is David Bell, but he can only do 1 per game. So if you can figure that out, go to BetUS and bet the prop on that because that'll be what it is. But yeah, I think we answered that pretty well. I think we did it pretty good. So on that note, let's get out of here, Drew. Thank you to everybody in the chat. A lot of questions this week, which is awesome. Jesse, Justin, Dynasty, Scissor. We had Zero Destroyer. Thank you all for coming. Everybody else that was in and out, thank you too. Remember to subscribe. You're subscribing to the DAP network, so you're not just getting us. You're getting the junkies. You're getting trade addicts when they do shows just regularly on YouTube. Also, like the video. That would be really helpful. Those likes apparently help out somehow with algorithms and things that I don't know about. And leave a comment too. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Tell us where we're wrong. Like Dynasty Scissor here. He said, yeah, but Jacoby Brissett is a gentleman. That is true. He is a gentleman. He is just not a good quarterback. So you can be 2 things at once. He is those 2 things at the same time. But hey, leave that in the comments. Hey, don't disparage the great name of Jacoby Brissett and let us know how you feel. For all the people listening to us on podcasts, thank you very much. It's appreciative. We're at 1 hour and 6 minutes. You could be doing anything else, literally anything else, and you made the decision to listen to what Drew and I have to say. Listen to all the stuff Drew says. Me, not so much. I'm not really that smart. I just am here for the fun.
Take Josh's bets.
Do that. That'll make you some money. But remember, again, if a friend referred you, if you just searched fantasy football and we came up and you listened and you like it, subscribe. Then rate and review if your podcast platform allows you to. That helps us out as well. We love seeing those. And Drew, I think I've gotten all that business out of the way. So let's get out of here.
Late.